Cyndi, and today is the video on our summer roundtable read, which is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Aveyard? I can't quite figure out how they pronounce that. Okay, here is cover. This is a Harper Teen imprint published in 2015, and it currently holds the #1 spot in teen and young adult historical romance, which is a surprise to me because after reading it and listening to the audiobook, I do not find this to be either historical or romance. I mean, sure, there is a romantic subplot, but it is seriously underdeveloped as most of the characters are in the book, in my view. The story reads and feels to me very much like a story written to be developed as a screenplay, which it looks like it might be in the works to be streaming on Peacock later this year, and that might be very enjoyable. I do like the story. I just don't think it has the feel of a novel. Okay, the story is set in the kingdom of Norta, which is divided by class and blood type. You have the Silvers, who live in splendor and have silver blood, and you have the Reds, who live in poverty in the villages such as the Stilts, or in our world we might say the Sticks. This is home to the character Mayor Barrows, and the Reds have red blood. Um, the Silvers possess special abilities, and the Reds are mundane and lack any special gifts. Mayor lives with her mother, Ruth, and her father, Daniel, who uses a wheelchair and a portable lung support device that he got from the black market after he lost a lung in the war. Her younger sister, Gisa, works for the Silvers as a seamstress. Their older brothers, Bree, Tremmy, and Shade, have all been conscripted to the war, which has been going on for more than 100 years. And any Red who doesn't have an apprenticeship going or isn't gainfully employed by the age of 18 is sent to the front, from whom most of them never return. Chapters 1 and 2 give us a great deal of background and family information on the character, which is Mare. She's the main character. Most of this, I feel, could be peppered into the story without an information dump, which is how I perceive these opening chapters. I also confess I am not a fan of first-person POV in writing. I think it's easy from my point of view to slip out of the storytelling. The story actually begins for me in chapter 2 with the letter from Shade, who is serving in the war but is currently away from the front. And then just at the end of chapter 2 is the hook where Mare learns that Kalorn no longer has a trade and is about to be sent to the front. Mare, who is a thief and is not herself an essential worker, is in danger of being sent to the war. This is a war that has injured her father, and her brothers have all served or currently serve. Her youngest sister is the only one who's employed in the community and, for the moment, spared from the war. Mare is determined to help Kalorn escape conscription and also to find a way out for herself. The first plot point, I think, is just at the end of chapter 3 when Gisa takes Mare into the land of the Silvers. This region is well known to Gisa since she actually works here as a seamstress, but for Mare, it is the world of adventure, and it is here that Mare leaves her normal world and begins her quest to escape the war and free Kalorn. Now, the Silvers stage these events every month in what is known as First Friday. They have these giant arenas in the red villages, and Silvers fight one another. It's quite a spectacle and very entertaining, but it is well known that it serves as a reminder to the Reds that they have no power. It is the ruling class, the Silvers, who are gifted, special, and who have the power. Still, when we're talking about Mare's best friend, Kalorn, he's about to be conscripted, and she decides to do everything she can to fight back. She goes to Will Whistle, and he's the man who usually buys the goods she sells, and he sells them on the black market. She asks if he can smuggle her and Kalorn out of the still so that they can go on the run. Will refuses, but then introduces Mare to Farley, with a woman to be considered a first-rate smuggler. Mare accepts the task of smuggling Mare and Kalorn out of town, but requires that Mare pay her 2,000 crowns within 2 days. Might as well be $1 billion. It is a fortune. But she accepts the terms, determined to steal the money, and Mare gets her sister, who works in the metropolis for the Silvers, where the king lives during the summer, to help her sneak into that city. And Mare tries to pick pockets in a bar, and the broadcast comes out on television. Mare sees Farley claiming credit for the latest terrorist attack on the Silvers on behalf of the Silver Guard. Chaos ensues, and as they run, they don't have the money because they were caught off guard. They have to escape. So Giza decides to pick a pocket to help her sister with her debt to Farley. She's not as good at this as Mare is, and she gets caught, and her hand is smashed, which means she can no longer work. So Mare sneaks off after returning her sister home. She's determined to steal from the patrons. She gets caught by a man who introduces himself as Cal. He walks her home, gives her more money, says he works at the palace. Mary doesn't think she's going to see him again or hear from him again, but then security and a royal servant show up at the Barrow residence to escort Mary to the palace. She thinks she's going to be tortured or something. But what has happened is that Cal has arranged for her to have a serving position, a lifeline. So now she's serving as at an event called Queen's Trial, in which the eligible young silver women, the noble women of the Silvers, compete for the two princes' hands in marriage. Mare discovers, to her shock, that the crown prince is none other than the young man who got her this job. It's Cal. Even worse is that during the event, something happens. And before all of the Silver's eyes, it is now exposed that Mare has a gift. She is not mundane. That's a problem for the Silvers. So now the Queen has influenced, they have decided as a family, as a royal family, that they will keep Mare in their palace, conceal her true identity as a Red, and tell everyone that she is a Silver whose parents died in the war as an infant, that she was raised by the Reds who concealed her identity from her until now. And they plan to give her in marriage to Maven, the second born prince. It's hardly a fairy tale. Instead, she feels like a like a prisoner because she can't see her family anymore. Because, as far as anyone can tell, they're not. Eventually, Mare joins the Scarlet Guard. She decides to trust this fiance of hers, who claims to be working with the Scarlet Guard and claims to want equality for the Reds and Silvers. She decides to believe that Maven's ideas are the only path to justice, even though she loves Cal. That's the one that the chemistry is there with, and yet she's betrothed to Maven. I'm not sure if that qualifies as a love triangle. To me, it was just more confusing. And now there comes a point when she's convinced herself that she has chosen the right brother. Chosen. She was forced into it. Okay? But Maven reveals that he has had a plan and been working with his mom, the Queen, Queen Alara, the entire time. And in the end of this chapter, what chapter are we on? I forget. Um, but the king passes. The queen uses her powers to kill the king and frames Cal. So now Cal and Mare are on the run together. Okay, so the novel finally ends with Cal and Mare on a train with members of the Scarlet Guard who've they've been sneaked out of the capital. She learns that she's not the only Red who has these talents. Supposedly, there are these genetic markers for the magical gifts, and no, it's not exclusive to being silver. That's a lie. Okay, there's so much to unpack and so much that boggles the mind. And I really thought when it got to chapter 5 that it was starting to get good. I mean, it really started to move along and it started to get good and started to have details and started to look like the plot was driving it along in a good way. Still, there's not a lot of character development. But There are so many questions, and I can't even begin to ask them because maybe reading the book will be again will give me the answers. I don't know. Or maybe I would understand it better if I saw it on a screenplay. I don't know. But as I was reading the book, I was struck in chapter 5. It's the first paragraph. She's talking about how Kalorn will always find her. Kalorn will always find me anywhere I try to hide. So I keep moving. I sprint like I can outrun what I've done to Giza because she blames herself for the damaged hand. How I've failed Kalorn because there's no money to rescue him. How I've destroyed everything. But even I can't outrun the look in my mother's eyes when I brought Giza to the door. I saw the hopeless shadow cross her face, and I ran before my mother wheeled himself into view. I couldn't face them both. I'm a coward, so I run until I can't think, until every bad memory fades away, until I can only feel the burning in my muscles. I even tell myself the tears on my cheeks are rain. That's on page 42. Now, here's the thing. It sounds like she's gone from third to out of first person. Okay, the tenses are wrong. Either I run or I ran. Either I bring or I brought. That bothers me. That bothers me as a writer. That does. And I have a little trouble getting past that. Questions that I end up having throughout the book. We have hints at things like what has happened to Shade, things that happened to Kalorn, people that you expect to have died mysteriously turn up in the epilogue quite alive. So I have questions, many, many questions. Questions I can't even begin to put into words because I have to go back to the original statement that it was written for a teleplay. Had this been novel material, the characters would have been more fully developed. They'd be more round, and we would know something more about the war. The war's been going on for more than 100 years, and we don't know why. Unless I've missed something, and please, please feel free to elaborate, somebody. So I'm disappointed. Not disappointed enough to that I didn't finish the book. I did. And I'm not disappointed enough to say, well, I'm not going to see it on TV because I probably will. At least the pilot episode, and then I'll know if I like it. But as a novel, it's not working for me. As a historical and romantic story, it's not. I mean, it's got plenty of the angst. I guess it's romantic if it's a teenage romance because they're a little all over the place. I mean, I would have been happier with it if she was clearly with Cal at the end. But I'm not clear that that happens. And as I looked at the overarching storyline for the 4 books, she's not with Cal. unless I've really missed something. And in, she's not with Cal as a couple at the end of the book one, uh, nor, i- nor is she the Red Queen yet. So I have a little trouble because I'm feeling like there are expectations that readers have that were not met, that should have been met. It's not like this was a cliffhanger. So I'm a little feeling like a little bit high and dry. I like it, but I don't love it. And I can't give it, a star rating because I don't know where I stand. But, but those are my thoughts.